Guys, welcome back. It's Plant Genius here. So last video we kind of went over plant anatomy with looking at the leaf, but now we're gonna go more over like the physiology, looking at the physical parts of like the shoot system in a sense. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is kind of like what the shoot system looks like if you really look under a microscope for real, kind of like that. But this is rough. This is not how it looks necessarily for all plants, but the structures are the same. So what we have here is auxiliary bud. Well, let's start with the main. We have our apex bud or the apical meristem, right? So a meristem is just a place of cell division where like the cells will grow and form, new parts and kind of keep replicating themselves. And that's kind of what you can see from here. Like it had start from down here, but then it grow, then it made these, and it's growing again, and it's gonna make another copy as it keeps growing. So that's that, and that's where like this is literally like the top of the plant. This is the bud, so it'll create like a leaf kind of in a sense. And then this is called the auxiliary buds, and these are copies of the apical meristem or the apex bud, but they're pretty much called they're grown from an axis, so they go at an angle, so they'll shoot up pretty much like either like a leaf or roots from an angle. And that's kind of when you see in your plants, like when they like a tomato, or like what's another good example, like a tomato or like a flower, like when you see them like shoot out when they're growing and it's coming from the angles to the side, that's the auxiliary buds, right? And also with the apical bud, it has something called apical dominance, where like because there's a concentration of hormones up here, these auxiliary buds won't grow until this is either farther up here growing or it gets cut. And that's kind of like a survival thing in a sense, and that's why people like prune and stuff like that too. And then we have something called like leaf primordia, which are kind of like these like the basic leaves, but they're kind of in like a developing form. They're not fully like leaves yet, so this is like the developing stage of them. And then we have the nodes, which is kind of like this middle area, and it'll house the auxiliary buds, and this is kind of where you get your development of like leaves and roots, like I was saying earlier. But the nodes, the auxiliary buds are placed where the nodes are pretty much. And then between each node is called an internode. So this middle gap space connect like between like this place and this place. This right here is the internode. So this is just a space in between, and like if you were pruning, you would probably cut a little bit above like this node area here to like get your prune, and use this part to like get another plant. And so that's pretty much like the whole structure of like the shoot system in a sense. And I'll kind of like show you guys my plant so you can get like an example of that a little bit. And then when you're looking at your plants too, the stem that'll come from a plant, it's called a petiole. So this is like what that branch is, pretty much. That's the petiole. Then the petiole will shoot and then make a leaf, and that's kind of the leaf blade. So petiole, then leaf. But again, it's kind of different for each plant. So some structures may look the same, some structures may not. So like this right here is like one of my monsteras, and if you can see right here, like this part that I'm touching my finger, that's that node. And you see how there's auxiliary buds in there, or this is the root, but that's technically an auxiliary bud. So you see how like that auxiliary bud is there, and that'll create like an aerial root, and then the plant will grow out from there. And this is where the leaf came from. So this originally was like an auxiliary bud too, or like a kind of leaf primordia, and then it's created like this plant or this leaf right here. And you can kind of see it kind of starting to happen again a little bit right here. And then this whole like thing would kind of be the petiole in a sense. And then the internode would be these spaces in between. So like from here to here, it's kind of like that internode space, because it's between nodes. So like from here to here, pretty much. So that's kind of like that. So that's kind of a little like live version. But again, like each plant is going to be different, kind of how they look, because you see like that don't really look like that as much, but the same idea is there. They have all those parts. I thank you guys for watching. I think it's really important to kind of know your parts, especially if you want to propagate, because you need to know your nodes and kind of know where the growth is going to come from and where to cut and how to cut. So it's just good to know for real. And like again, I may be a plant genius, but you can be a plant genius too. So we gotta learn together so you can actually know how to handle your plants, how to take care of them. This is the first step, especially if you want to propagate, so you know how to do it correctly. So I thank you guys for watching, and start propagating for real. And if you guys need help, let me know. And peace.